I finally reached my second US exclusive game in what is supposed to be a PC Engine catalog. Now, I know that the first one was incredibly bad, but all the Turbografx 16 exclusives can't be awful, right? Anyways, here's Talespin, one of the more notoriously awful games for the Turbografx 16. It's so weird to think back to 1991, and Disney had started to build a reputation for quality products after a long, disastrously bad period following Walt Disney's death. Yes, younger viewers, Disney actually once had a reputation for making quality products. And that included video games. After a little bit of a rocky start, the console games getting released for Disney in the early 90s were some of the best available. Not every single one of them was great, but at least felt like there was a commitment to quality. That's something that makes the Turbografx 16 version of Talespin stand out even more. Talespin was based on a syndicated animated show that Disney made very loosely based on the characters from Disney's animated version of The Jungle Book, but transplanted into a pulp adventure setting. Baloo the bear has a flying cargo service, which gets him and his sidekick into enough adventures that they could have 13 weeks of episodes airing every weekday. In the game, Louie the orangutan has heard about a stone tablet that acts as a treasure map, but the tablet's been broken up into pieces. For the first 4 stages, you can take your pick which piece you're going after. Then, once you've collected all 4, you go to a shoot-'em-up stage. Then you switch playable characters to something completely different for the 6th stage, and finally try to collect that treasure on the 7th. What I'm getting at there is that this is a game that doesn't know what it wants to be, and also doesn't do any of it well. Most of the levels in Talespin are platforming where you're playing as Baloo. And right off the bat, you're gonna see me die. A lot. When you see me walk off the edge of a platform like that, it's not because I'm a person who makes videos about games for the internet, or because I'm using a bad video setup. What's happening is the controls in Talespin sometimes just don't respond. This can be mitigated somewhat just by pressing and holding the button, but even then, things sometimes just don't work. On stages where you're controlling Baloo, button 1 jumps and button 2 will attack in some way. Usually you're throwing something, a coconut or a snowball, but on the underwater level, you're blasting a jet of bubbles. You can aim these attacks up or diagonally up, unless you're jumping, in which case you can only attack forward. Also, the air jet automatically shoots at a diagonal down when certain enemies are on screen, even if there's threats coming at you from other angles. Baloo has a health bar, and when that runs out, well, you keep going because you're allowed to have 0 health. When you're at 0 health, then the next hit will defeat you. It's worth pointing out that the enemies do not despawn when you die, so if you die on the first screen, which is entirely possible since there's no method of restoring health in the game, even completing a stage, then the enemies and their attacks are all still there. It just moves you back to the start position. If you manage to make it far enough to start encountering things that shoot you, you'll notice that most of them fire a continuous stream of projectiles. Your own shots can intercept them, and this might seem like a good thing, except it tends to result in stalemates, where both you and the enemy keep attacking, and no attacks get through. The best thing you can do is find a safe spot to stand where you can still attack from. Then, with some rapid fire, you might be able to get a hit in occasionally. Or you could just run through. That's sometimes the better option. You'll see numbers floating around on levels. Running into those will get you points. There's also items that get dropped from enemies, and collecting a certain number of those across the entire stage will get you a lot of points. The points do nothing. There are, however, 2 helpful things you can pick up. There are extra lives hidden on some stages, and there are also shields with an S in them that make you invulnerable for about 5 seconds. And most of them are placed in areas with no enemies. After you complete a stage, Kit will go out surfing behind your plane, and you'll swing him around left and right as you steer. You do this to collect points, and at the end of the course, there's an extra life. All of these bonus stages are identical. You'll be repeating them a few times. After you collect the 4 broken tablet pieces, you go to the Shoot 'em Up stage, and here, attack is no longer button 2, it's now on button 1. Meanwhile, button 2 does nothing. You have a health bar, and that's pretty good because you and the enemies are huge, you move very slowly, and you can still get hit by enemies that you've shot down. There's only one type of enemy in this Shoot 'em Up stage, and no power-ups, which I think puts this Shoot 'em Up stage in contention for the worst shooter on the platform. Stage 6 has you in control of Kit in a platforming area, and Kit is unable to attack, so button 2 does nothing. When you're in the air, if you press up, then he deploys a glider that doesn't seem to actually do a whole lot. And that's as far as I got while playing, because this game is incredibly cruel, and it only gives you 3 credits to complete the entire game with. Presumably that was done to combat rentals, because the game is also very short. If you rush, you can get through a stage in about a minute. And when I say rush, I mean just go and don't stop for things. But then maybe it's a good thing that there is so little of Talespin, because the level design that exists is pretty boring. Every level is essentially 3 small little set pieces. For example, in the jungle stage, the first part is hopping on hippo heads. Then there's a waterfall section. And finally going through a village of people who aren't happy about you wanting to plunder their stuff. All these segments are only a few seconds long, and even at that short length, they usually just copy and paste the same obstacle several times. Some of you might have been watching this video and thinking, I had Talespin on the Genesis, and it's nothing like this. And yes, the Genesis version, which came out the following year, and the Turbografx 16 version of Talespin are 2 completely different games. They are both developed by short-lived company Interactive Designs, but they made an entirely different game for the Genesis/Mega Drive version. Interactive Designs is probably best known, if you could call it that, for the widely disliked and notorious surfer dude platformer Green Dog. And between all the versions of Green Dog and Talespin, that is literally half of everything they developed. Maybe the worst thing about the Turbografx version of Talespin is that it's just not bad enough to put it on the level of a truly memorable, awful game. Talespin is one of those games where you can feel the lack of passion from everyone involved, and you really need some of that extra oomph to make it into the Bad Game Hall of Fame. Talespin is just boring bad. This is a game that does nothing right, and even fails to do that in a way that could be interesting.